Hello, welcome to the show. My guest today is Brigette Miland. She is creating a planner that isn't actually available until this time next year for 2027. I'm having her on anyway because I receive a lot of messages from people who have dreams of creating side hustles. They have a problem they want to solve, but they have a difficult time balancing that time and making it happen with all the other things that are happening in life. Brigette is solving that problem for herself because she wanted a planner that fit all the things and allowed her to put her phone down a whole lot more often. So we'll talk about that and more as she joins the show. Thank you for being here, Brigette.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We've been talking about having you on for a bit. Just to let people know, you live here in the community, in the Wenatchee community. You're in the medical field.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about your side hustle, if they still use that term. I don't know. I had a side hustle before side hustle was a thing. I don't know if it's still a thing. Is it a thing? Do we use that term anymore?
I think it still gets used, but I think I categorize it in that same category as like boss babe. So I don't know.
We can be all of the things.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So you have been in the medical community for a long time. It's your profession. Talk a little bit about what you do, but also how it pertains to what you're building on the side. You're building right alongside your full-time job.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a nurse. I have a kind of a unconventional nursing job is how I describe it. I work in the quality department. And so I do a lot of systems work, a lot of data analysis, data reporting, data submissions, kind of process improvement work, that sort of thing. So not typically what people think of when they think of nursing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I have a 5-year-old and a family. And so I am so trying to balance all of those things is really challenging. My work is pretty demanding. And I want to be a really great mom and a really great wife, also, as well as a really great employee. And so those things, it's a lot to juggle. And I like to call it more of a harmony where it's not necessarily a balance. I think that that's really hard to attain, but kind of harmonizing your life so that, one day, every day for me looks a little bit different, so that I can be where I need to be at any given point. And I'm certainly not perfect at that. But as I have been kind of working as a professional and then also as a mom and managing a household, I have found that it's really, there are so many different things. I think about them like domains or buckets, where we have our work bucket and our mom bucket and our wife bucket and just house management and budget and, our emotional health and all these different buckets. And it's hard. It's been really hard to manage them all well.
So it doesn't strike me as, surprising that you are now, putting together systems that make sense for the everyday life part of things, and that you're implementing some of these things into what we'll talk about now is your planner, because you've spent so much time, like you said, creating this harmony, and you have systems in place that make that possible. So let's talk about that, because it's really what got you to the place of wanting to create a tool. And then we can talk a little bit later about how you went about creating that tool. But I want to know, how do you make the leap? Because a lot of us are trying to find harmony in our schedules, and we just find it with our phone calendar. So
yeah,
you wanted to take it a next step, and that's probably largely because of the detailed planning you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me just kind of go back a couple of years. What I was finding is I would have a budget book. I would have my digital planner, or like my phone that kind of goes around with me places. I had a separate notebook. I had a separate personal planner. My work schedules on my phone or on my laptop. So we have these different pieces of my life in all in different places. And that so I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to integrate that. while also trying to be less on my phone. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that, where so many things have become digitized, but we, I think a lot of us feel this pull to be on our phones less and be less reliant on our phones. And I think I'm probably especially sensitive to it, just having a child that's around me a lot. It's really hard to have everything on your phone and then also um
Not be on your phone.
and not be on your phone and giving attention to other things. And I have a really hard time focusing on multiple things. So I can get like really tunneled into an email that I'm reading on my phone and not hearing what's going on around me. And um, so a lot of what I've been working on over the last couple of years and I felt a pull to, is just trying to get off of my phone, um, and then more systems kind of together in one place and having something that works well for us. And then I think so there's the day-to-day management of our lives, but I think we all have dreams and things that we want to do. And taking that like kind of long term or like more dreaming, goal setting, that part, and integrating it in with these like day-to-day things, yes, is
Because
what,
you're right. I hadn't thought about the difference. So you're talking about having like the appointments you have today, or the appointments you have on Friday, or the appointment we had today. And then you have the projected goals that sometimes require appointments, but most of the time just require planning,
yes.
setting goals and achieving certain things by certain dates. And do you agree too that sometimes writing it down is very different than, just typing it into your phone and then putting it in this block that you set down for however many hours a day or not, but to have something that smells like paper and feels like paper and
Yeah.
so
And
pretty.
something that you can open back up and then pick up where you left off. I think I don't know about you, but I can't tell you how many notes I've started in my phone and the notes app that I come back to, or I like I'm scrolling through and I find it 2 years later. I'm like, oh, well, I never finished that, or I never did that, or I recreated the same thing later
Yes.
because I needed to do that same kind of processing, not realizing that I'd already done it. And so I think that that's some of the value that having it on paper really brings.
Well, and I
Totally.
think when I got a new phone in this last year, and I hadn't had a new phone in a very long time, since I think 2018 or something. And I was like, okay, I'm going to keep this phone clean. Not going to have a bunch of notes that I don't finish or that aren't organized. I'm not going to have a bunch of pictures I don't need. I think I had 56,000 pictures on my old phone. And I'm like, I'm going to do so good. And I looked yesterday and I have 7,800 pictures on my phone. And most of them are screenshots, trying to remember something,
Yep.
trying to jot something down. And then I have notes and copy and paste. And it just is what it is. There's some things. And that's part of the thing. Let's take a break in just a moment because we're talking about your planner. Let's get to the planner part that you're building. And for someone like me who's not used to a planner, I mean, I've bought some lovely planners that I use for a couple of weeks. It's kind of like a New Year's resolution, right? You're going to start out in January. You're going to keep tracks of these things on paper. And then there are habits that you have, I think, need to develop to really fully utilize a planner like what you're building. We're here talking with you, Brigette Miland, about the planner you're developing. And when, I've had a lot of planners, as I said, and I'm not good at finishing them, but I like the concept. And I like to think that there's one that would make the most sense for how I navigate my life, or how I think about that harmony we're talking about, how we create that with our schedules. So let's first talk about the fact that you have this full-time job and you have a family, and what you're creating is a complete side hustle. It's something you invested in. It's remarkable the number of things we can learn online. You have a coach who's taught you how to build this planner. You have a designer. You have this whole team of things. It's not something you're creating by yourself in Canva. It's something you've invested time and money in. I think when you first told me about it was 2025 is when you invested in it. And
Yeah.
it's not even, it's for 2027. I mean, that's long game. That's a long game. This time next year, you'll release the planner.
Yeah. I think that I purchased the course that I'm taking, I think in March of 2025, knowing that the timeline for getting something printed, that would be impossible to do for 2026 planner. So I started that and kind of engaged in the process in basically in the spring of 2025 for a 2027 planner. So yeah, certainly, certainly not an instant gratification kind
Well,
of
I think that
process.
there are steps along the way. You and I were working together recently because we did a little get together work with another friend, and we do that sometimes just to kind of bounce things off each other, work with our laptops, and then get back to that creative space and then have conversations. And I asked you, are you archiving? Are you recording your screen? Like, show us what you're doing because that'll be part of your marketing later. And you get so deep in the woods, right? In the weeds of getting it done that you're like, okay, this part doesn't seem important. Then it's all of a sudden, well, you're showing me all these beautiful colors and I want to get to the part about the big shift you made for the
Yeah.
planner. But first, just talking about how, all the steps that you take, there is some there are wins, there is some gratification along that way once you make certain decisions. And yes, you're not going to get to sell the whole thing for a year and a half, but most definitely I've watched the process and it's incredibly creative and
Yeah.
there's a lot of moving parts.
And I think it's creative and it's also really logistical. So I did I surveyed moms, working moms. Yep. And yeah, just and women in my life, friends of friends that are kind of that would be in this demographic. And by this demographic, maybe like kind of like me, kind of me trying to solve this problem for other people like me.
Well, that's what all great products do, right?
Yeah, yeah. And one of the biggest things, kind of takeaways from that survey, well, let me back up. I got a lot of really, really great feedback and a lot of trends emerged. And but that part is really logistical, like trying to figure out these little details, like how much is too much, how much is not enough. So like for example, trying to figure out how much for the working part, work looks really different for different people. It looks one way for me, but for other moms it might be that is their side hustle. Like they're home with their kids and they're full time with kids and also trying to build something, and that might be their work. People might have a part-time job or might work in the evenings or might work during the day. So work looks really different. And so I was really struggling with how much do I build out a framework for work and a planner that needs to be kind of flexible for different people. And so like what is too much and what's not enough. So that's like I think an example of that kind of it's like feels creative and then also feels like really intentional problem solving at the same time.
Well, and I think one of the things you said just a moment ago is like you asked people, you asked the people who are your market. That's market research, right? And you have plenty of time to do that and getting that feedback too, because and then there's the part where you can't be all things to all people. So are you
Yeah.
speaking to entrepreneurs? Are you speaking to moms? Are you speaking to people who work and have a side hustle? And how do you make that work? Like you're saying, work looks different and family looks different for
It's
everybody.
different. Mhm.
Everything looks different for everybody. So one of the things that you called me up about a while ago, well, you share our conversation.
Yeah, this is I you kind of talked about these different junctures and like these different wins. And so the day that I had taken a day off of work and I was really trying to do this problem solving. So I open it up, I'm trying to figure out how can I fit a day's planner in a spread that would actually fit in someone's purse where it would actually be portable. That was one of the key components that I need and to keep stuff out of my phone. so not to duplicate it. But then what other people in that survey also echoed that, that you use your phone for so much. So this really, I really feel like it has to replace your phone for that entering of calendar dates,
The thing
entering
you
of
grab off the
appointments.
counter as you're leaving. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so to have something that's portable enough to where it fits in a purse, but also doesn't weigh 15 pounds. Because I originally planned on this being a like one planner for the whole year of 2027. And as I was designing it, I realized this isn't possible. Um, it either needs to be big and weighty, or it needs to be
That you
really
don't
trimmed
take with
down.
you. So then you use your phone to keep track of the thing that you
Yeah,
are out and about that you need to keep track of. So
exactly.
defeats the
Completely
purpose.
defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
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 Which is why we're so dependent on our phones, because it is portable. It does go with
It is
us.
easy.
And so so I called you, I called a couple, I was just kind of in this like, oh, talk about collaboration, just feeling like, oh no, do I have to abandon this dream of mine? What I envision and what I want to produce for women, I don't think that I can do it in the way that I've thought about it. And so then I kind of had this idea, the idea of a quarterly planner. I'm like, well, like we don't really think in quarters, like in our real lives. Like there's nothing special about January through March or April
Well,
through
yeah, I mean, in
June.
the corporate world, but that's not very creative or,
Right.
fun
And it
thinking
doesn't
about.
match how we really do life.
Yes.
And so I had this idea of, and this was actually at the juncture between fall and between summer and fall.
Yes.
So we were starting, summer was ending, and all of these fall things are starting to come up. Um, Fall activities, fall memories that we need to make, planning, starting to plan for back to school and that sort of thing. And so I realized like, we actually do life in seasons. And so that's kind of this big juncture that I had of like, well, if I did a quarterly planner, I could shift it a little bit, make it seasonal, and then really lean into that, which follows the rhythms of our normal life instead of trying to manufacture a bookend.
And yeah, I was like, yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. And you've solved the issue of you have an insert, you have solved the issue of people, being somewhere and saying, oh, don't have a place to write down what, you're having a meeting that's 6 months out and you're in your season of, this 6 months away in a different season in your planner. So let's take a quick break and I want to come back and talk to you, just wrap up with you and talk with you just a moment more and talking with Brigette. And so then, well, hold on. We'll talk about it when we get back. I didn't know if you have a name for the planner. So talk to you in just a second about that. We're back finishing up with you, Brigette Miland. We decided you'll be back on the show in December next year when the planner's ready. So we decided to hold the title until then, just to hold it so people can see it in all of its beauty all at once. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on before it's even done is to talk about how you've created this solution for a problem you had and how so many side hustles, so many people have ideas that they think there isn't time or a way to bring them to fruition. And today, in today's world, especially with digital products and coaches and people who can help bring those things to fruition, who've done it before, like your coach started making her own planner, and now she teaches people how to make planners. There's plenty of room for planners. There's plenty of room for more people to create whatever idea it is they have. There's room for that.
Yeah. Well, I love that you said that because I remember talking to you about this when I first kind of had the nudge and I was like, Lisa, I want to do this, but this market is so saturated and I, and maybe it is, and that's okay. We can still produce something that is done in the way that we would do it. So
Yes.
that is unique. And
Yeah.
every one of us has something unique to offer and to bring, whether it's a paper product or a course that you want to do or speaking, a book that you want to write. I mean, there are so many dreams I think that we have on our hearts that that maybe I think we can easily talk ourselves out of wanting to pursue, because it is a long game, because it's going to be a big commitment, or because of financial resources, or because you don't feel like you have the time. I think there are a lot of things that can get in the way of our dreams being birthed.
Well, and I think that that's what we think about too when we think about long game, because I remember when you bought the course, that's one win. And then you start to dive in, that's two wins. One of the biggest wins you have is that you stuck with it. That you actually, how many courses do I have that have digital dust that I have intention for, but I'm a little, shiny object, what I'm trying to create. So I like the idea of having this one thing that you're working on. Now, is it multifaceted? For sure. And when you get ready to market it, it's going to be a whole different thing, right? I mean, I was talking to somebody today who's joining one of my programs about developing a book, and I said, people ask me, like, how do you become a writer? And I'm like, well, that's just writing. Anyone who writes is a writer, but becoming an author, that's a whole other thing. So you dabbling in Canva and printing something out for your hand use, I mean, your household use to have in your hands, is much different than you investing in a course, paying a coach, and now deciding to pay a designer because it won't get done in time if you don't, because you have these other time constraints with your work and your family. So there's just usually a way, and it looks very different for every single person.
Yeah. And I think what I would just share is that it is hard to find time. It's hard to prioritize. And I think some people are really successful at carving out like a little bit a day, a little bit out of each day to move something forward. That doesn't really work for me. I have to carve out like a full day. I have to take a PTO day and actually dedicate a full 8-hour block to it. And
I
so
spent like 18 to 20 hours on a bot the other day.
yes,
It's just a marathon. I'm in it.
Yes.
I can't take a pause.
I can't turn it on and off like that. And some people can, and that's fabulous. I think you just need to know how you operate. But however that looks, the day to day, the week to week, the month to month, those decision making, the decision making, the investing, all those different things are hard. But what feels, and we've all heard that, like, choose your heart. But I really think that that's so true. What feels especially hard for me is thinking of going into 2027 and not having this in hand, and feeling disappointed in myself and feeling like I let myself down. I didn't follow through. This is another thing that I didn't do. And I think those things are so much harder and so much more damaging, and they're harder to recover from. But you're right, these different little junctures, I think, give small wins and help with motivation. But at the end, like, having something in hand to show, like, no, it's about having something to help other people. Absolutely. But it's also about showing ourselves that we can do hard things. And
well, you're doing it. You're doing a hard thing and you're doing a really good job of it. So come back next December with your planner in hand, like you're saying, and share it with the rest of us. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have a Kickstarter probably in May.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.